This is part 3 of the Cash Home Childcare course. We're on the middle page now, and it says explain the principles of safe supervision both in the home-based setting and off-site. So basically, supervision of children in your home means that you're aware of what they are doing all the time and that you do everything possible to protect them from harm and dangers. Now, supervision could mean how you manage your time, implications in how you manage your time and work. How do you supervise children when one wants to play inside, another one wants to play outside? And what are your options? So it's basically about management, care and protection, both inside and outside, that's secure. You just always make sure that you do everything possible to prevent accidents and to reduce risks all the time in any place that you are with children. While children are in the care, you have full and complete responsibility for their safety and well-being. When you stop and think about it, it's a huge task. Now that's safety, comfort, security and happiness is all about monitoring the child so you can hear them. You should do visual checks frequently, and that you're attentive and alert and mindful, or you can hear them. So there's 3 types of supervision. For example, sleeping or playing out. There's constant supervision, where you're watching, or so you're seeing and listening to the child all the time, where you're in close contact and could be feeding or they are cutting something. Number 2 is close supervision, where you're watching a child but you're not actually involved, where you can step in if an issue of safety arises, such as being close to them when they are climbing. There is number 3, which is general supervision. That's when you're fully aware of what the children are doing and checking on them frequently, keeping an attentive eye from a distance. And when they are playing on the carpet together, you keep a general supervision. This supervision level depends on the age of the child, obviously. So, for example, the stage of development that a young child would need more constant supervision than an older child would, but it'd be more general. The activities that a child would be doing, a sleeping baby would need a different type of supervision than another child who's doing, I don't know, baking cakes or playing football. There's a different type of supervision when children need close supervision when they're away from your home, especially in less familiar surroundings. The next one is individual and additional needs. All children have individual needs, but sometimes they may have additional needs, for example, learning difficulties, or they may have a visual difficulty, which means that they need a special type of supervision. Now, there's a ratio for the legal requirements of supervision if you've got quite a few children in home-based schools. That supervision ratio is, for example, you need to have per person, so 6 under 8s, 3 under 5s, 1 baby under the 12th. So there needs to be that age group. It couldn't be all over under 3. There should be a ratio of children. So this is a practical concern that we need to see and hear children at all times, especially when you're in the kitchen cooking a meal, making a snack, and they're in the playroom, when you have to go to a different room and leave them there. You have to think, are they going to be safe? How long am I going to be? Can I see and hear the child at all times? Could I organize my time differently so that I don't need to leave the room for a long time, perhaps preparing a meal or when the children arrive? I like the next few issues about how should you cook the meal before, after a child arrives? What's the best way? This is quite an interesting topic. I think that the framework shows us in section 3 about the statutory requirements about home-based children in that regards. And it just says, how would you manage a situation like this effectively when you've got to prioritize, especially you've got to go to the toilet or something like that happens. How do you balance things out as a discussion point? So anyway, supervision outside the house, because we've done inside. So inspectors will always inspect outside the house for safety. You would need to have a garden. There are rules that apply to a garden. The ratio should be correct. Those outside rules also relate to being outside in the car, crossing a road, using public transport. To be safe and effective in noisy playgrounds, there's obviously permission you need to seek from the parents. And just basic issues on cars, walking around. And there's obviously some reflective practices on what would happen if you try to cross a road when the red light is not on yet. There's also charities such as Break, which is road safety, that you could go to, and that shows you how to be safe when you're outside. You also need to be considering to take another adult or accompany you so you're in pairs when you go out, and that is a requirement by the framework again on welfare rights. Now, the next stage is looking at the outside areas where children play. If you can't see the children in hiding place in the garden, or if you can't hear or see them when you're in the kitchen, what is the balance to supervision and the child's right to be safe? Excellent. So we're just moving on to the next part now, which is 2.3, which is the bottom of page number 21. And it's just talking about the procedures and storages and administration of medication and record keeping in relation to medication. It wants a description, write in detail about the idea of the topic, using straightforward language and procedures, ways and practices and methods to help carry out an action. Now, not all children are well, and they may need permission from the mother for you to give them Calpol or any medication they need, and it needs to be stored safely following the procedures. All medications should be in the original containers. They should be kept nearby if there's something like an asthma inhaler. You should always read the instructions, and you should put it in a safe place. How should you keep a record? So there is a record book that you need to keep if you administer medication to a child. That includes the correct dosage, time signature, and parent signature. There's a useful website called PACey, which talks about the resources for medication and record books. You should always check in your environment that you can store all medication properly. Check you have procedures, and make sure all parents understand that. That's also under medicines in the framework. Now, how do you carry out a risk assessment? That's 2.4 at the top of page number 23. As mentioned earlier, a legal requirement to keep children whom you look after safe from the equipment. So you need to carry out a risk assessment, look at identifying any hazards and find out the safest way to deal with the hazard. They must be thorough, accurate, and they must work for you. To be good and effective risk assessments have several parts. So it's 1, identification of the risk or hazard. What is it and where is it? 2, who? Who is at risk? Is it you or the adults? 3, evaluate the risk. Can you remove it completely or can you control it? 4, make a note of your decision. 5, do something about the risks or hazard. 6, go back at a later date and check the hazards. You would need at least 45 minutes to do a risk assessment for each area before the child gets access to it, and it should be a written record completed once a month for to electronic resources that you can just tick off. There is a checklist for indoor rooms that you can check. If there's a room that's unacceptable, it should be locked. The one way to check the safety of the house is to sit on your knees, the child's height, and spot any hazards that you can see. Is there a danger? Is there a risk? What can I do about it? So, like for example, a date, and say parents are not shutting the gate. Who's at risk? All children. What to do? Speak to all parents because shut door. Action: put sign on both sides of the gate. Speak to all parents as if they leave. A recheck, visual check every time parents arrive. In terms of the kitchen, there's specific rules. So no child should be allowed in the kitchen unsupervised. Keep doors of the washing machine closed. Oven doors closed. Cleaning materials kept away. There shouldn't be any trailing cables. There shouldn't be any. There should be insurance that the smoke alarm works. And then there's a risk assessment downstairs, which I will do in the next video. Thank you so much.